Hey everyone, we've had a really articulate question about relationships that I think points us towards the the greatest freedom that we might ever find in this world of interactions with other people. So I'll read it out. Hi Claire, I was listening to the podcast about why do I shut down. As you know, I've been experiencing anxiety and depression. Everything has improved a bit, even the low mood isn't as low. But the comment about triggers in the podcast and information that is given made me curious. I noticed that I'm constantly comparing my life to others, and as my life circumstances currently don't feel favourable, I have feelings of jealousy, lack of connection, and despondency that things will never improve, while at the same time not begrudging anyone else their joy and abundance. I am observing and trying to be with the feeling without judgment, sometimes easier than others when you want to feel better. I also wondered about that feeling of striving for more connection, reaching out to friends to meet, and when they are busy, taking it personally and starting the despondency cycle again. It seems like the striving to stay connected is an attempt to be validated. Yeah, and being isolated feels like death, as you put it on this week's webinar. We are social animals, so it feels natural to want to connect. I wondered if you had anything to say to these points. I love this. This is it's the center point. There's a distinction or there's a sort of change of direction, a change of meaning at the center of this that I think is liberation for all of us. And what it is that it's the recognition that this human system thrives in contact with others. There's no end of data to support that. Particularly the longevity studies in Sardinia, which 10 years longer than in mainland Italy for men because of the social connection. That's the only differentiating factor. And everything about us, even those of us who are introverted, we're still wired to societal living. And we thrive in loving, supportive, friendly, helpful community. And so our whole tendency is towards other people. Now, what really disrupts that and makes that problematic is when which is always the case, it's when the concept of ourselves is reinforced or made secure by the approval of others. And we can see, can't we, how like they're like close in, tight in, those things. And without this conversation, they're locked in really forever. And so there's this impetus towards this sort of natural tendency for communion and socializing and strong relationships and partnerships. And there's this undercurrent of, I'll find my peace here. I'll be loved enough here that my mind will finally settle. I'll be respected enough. I'll be held enough in this group. I'll be popular enough. I'll be invited out enough that I will finally, the self idea of me will finally be secure. And then what we have when those two are locked in and there's no space in it, there's just this blind movement out into the world, seeking friendship, seeking approval, seeking recognition in order that I can be finally secure and okay. And the more that it's coming from that place of fragility, which is the more I'm attempting to secure this idea of me, the more fragile every interaction is, because my vigilance really is like high alert for, is this self-identity in danger here? Is it going to be rejected? Are they going to ignore me? How can I guarantee this relationship? How can I know they're not talking about me behind my back, or they're not going to leave me? How can I fix it all down so that I can be secure? And so that's the sort of tempo and tone of our interactions. And when they're coming from that place, we're literally, at the same time as seeking others out, we're pushing them away. So cool, this, when we see it, that it's just, this is breakthrough, truly breakthrough stuff. So while that's unconscious, that's the dynamic, over and over and over again, everywhere. That's the dynamic. And we're vulnerable, and we're fragile, and we're insecure, and we're on hyper alert for being offended or insulted or left out. People can't relax with us. They're actually not safe with us, because their actions and their words are being scrutinized. They're being made so intensely personal to me. There's a weight being put on everything that comes in that is about me and how secure I am. And we'll just carry on that. I think that would have carried on all my life. I was so there, like this, how this lovely listener is describing. That was absolutely I could have written that. So much comparison, so much self-judgment, so much unease. And it would just carry on. There's nothing to stop it, until this conversation comes in and says, yes, the desire to connect, the desire to socialize, to be surrounded by people who love us and we have fun with, who are loyal, who we can share things with. That's absolutely part of the human thriving system. And at the same time, when we can start seeing it, like we see it in slow motion, when that whole thing goes right via this loop, like a sort of Scalextric, I'm thinking, like a sort of loop out to the side of securing the self-identity, which is very different. It's very different from the freedom of being with others. It's very, like, they're not the same thing when we start slowing everything down and looking at it properly. They're not. But when we slow down and we see this loop, it goes out, and the mind is engaged in, really, in the personal. It feels heavy and sticky, and there's no space in it. There's no air in it. It's all so much about me. It's so personal. There's no freedom. There's no joy in it. There's actually no space for other people in that loop. It's entirely about me. And that feels rubbish, because there is no connection. When everything is looping back to, what does this mean for me? We miss out entirely on the other. And so now we're slowing down enough to see that happen. And the minute we see it happening, that's the beginning of the end of it, because it makes less and less sense. And we start to see it happen. We might sit in a pub or in a cafe with friends, and we might sort of notice that defenses coming in, that sort of identity, that sort of bristling, or that sort of feeling isolated or left, might notice it. And in the noticing, we think, okay, right, this is it, this is the loop. And it takes us out. It takes us entirely out of the group, while we're just, for that moment, just obsessed with our own fragile self idea. And so each time now that happens, instead of it taking us out automatically and blindly and consciously, it's like, okay, no, back in, right? Let's really listen, see what people are saying. Notice the trigger words, notice the actions that make me, put me in a state of comparison, or hard done by, or less than, lacking. And just notice it, and then back in, notice, back in, over and over again. And that way, all our interactions clean up. And also that way, all our interactions are really essentially healing that fragility of ego, and it's so, I'm being a bit dismissive of it, but only because it's so disruptive in relationships. But it's totally understandable. And now what we're having, it doesn't matter what age we are. We could be 90 and hearing this for the first time, and it's now is our moment to learn relationships, to learn other people, to learn that clean engagement, clean presence. It doesn't matter what age, and all our relationships are the means through which that is cleaned up, the means through which it's made clear. It's brilliant. This is brilliant for all of us listening to this. This is where all our relationships become the vehicle through which the vulnerability of the self-identity is understood, is honored, is noticed, is loved, really, and through which it loses its dominion. It loses its dictatorship over behavior and words and withdrawal or conflict. It's the start of the end of all of that. It's brilliant. So I'm so grateful for this question. You're talking on behalf of all of us, truly. And yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Lots of love. Bye.